Hi, I'm Cassandra Parton, Managing Director with NextTech Learning. Welcome to NextTech's weekly live broadcast, where we share relevant updates to help you implement successful employee development methods. At the moment, many businesses are going through incredible changes and are reorganising. New leaders are emerging. This is an opportunity for young professionals who are eager to step up and to fast-track their career. In today's broadcast, we talk about organisational change, career progression, and the opportunities that are arising for young professionals to transition into leadership positions. In today's broadcast, we talk about organisational change with business growth guru Geoff Hirsh. After starting his career in sales and marketing management with Cadbury, Schweppes and Duracell, Geoff switched to agency side of marketing industry in 1989 and actually ran award-winning direct response agency Admiral for over 25 years. Geoff, thank you so much for joining us today. Over to you.
Thank you. Nice to be here. You're right. My career sort of spans both the corporate side of the sales and marketing industry and the agency side, and more recently in the formation of a couple of new businesses, more entrepreneurial kinds of businesses. So I think you're right also that there are new opportunities. The environment is a changing one, and I think young people in particular are better at adapting to change. They're faster to embrace the new technologies that change brings with it. And I think also, particularly in the current environment, the need to be agile, both in terms of your thinking and agile in terms of how quickly and how flexibly you respond to what is very much a moving feast of challenges is going to be very important.
100%. That flexibility is absolutely crucial, isn't it? Because we were just having a chat earlier. I mean, it's changing week to week. So, having that agile approach is definitely required. Geoff, in what way would you say the current disruptive environment presents an opportunity for young, talented professionals?
Yeah, I think every change brings opportunity. This particular environment has brought more significant changes, perhaps, than many we've seen. I've lived and worked my way through several recessions over the last 35 years, and no doubt we are heading into a fairly significant recession right now, but this one is certainly complicated by the personal health and safety issues around COVID-19. So not only are we facing business challenges related to reduced expenditure, but we're facing personal challenges in terms of coping with basically our fear. And although a lot of people would sort of put that issue to one side, the reality is if you go to a supermarket and getting anxious as soon as sense you are invading their personal space, there is a lot of fear out there. And I think for many of us that fear stems from a perceived lack of control. So things that we were once very confident were within our control are no longer in our control. Right? So to have this coincidence of business and financial issues and personal health and safety and emotional issues all bundled into one sort of explosive package is creating a cocktail of change. And we're seeing that in the way people are working, the fact that we're now communicating and having this meeting instead of face-to-face via Zoom. We're seeing it in the way that people are collaborating. We're seeing it in the rapid adoption of new technologies, whether that's in the area of project management or online document signing processes. So just about every industry is going through some fairly significant and perhaps in some cases, long-term structural change.
Mm.
And I think those that are best able to A, cope with the change, and B, adapt to the technology and incorporate it into their lives and their way of working are going to be positioned to take advantage of career progression opportunities.
Definitely. So if you were talking about, I guess, the skills, in what kind of skills professionals would need to succeed in a leadership position, or just kind of, I guess, progressing their career on, the other side of this current situation, what would those key skills be?
Yeah, look, I think some of that never changes, and some of it has changed in the last couple of months. So the things that never change relate to the need to out of a silo where you have become particularly skilled at one functional aspect of the business that you work in, whether that's sales or marketing or manufacturing or operations or finance or technology or HR or whichever functional silo you're working in. You need to be able to move from that position of knowledge and depth of experience to a general management position where you are working in collaboration with teams of people that have greater expertise in their own functional area than you do, and yet somehow still manage the productivity of people whose particular expertise you don't necessarily know or understand. So the transition from sort of a line management position within a particular functional silo to a general management position always requires a degree of adaptation. And the first adaptation is probably a personal one, where it's coming to terms with the fact that you are not always the go-to expert. So it's about interpersonal skills, it's about listening skills, it's about developing the ability to get the best out of people in your team, even if you cannot show them where the answer is, giving them a framework that allows their mentoring and coaching. So, there's a whole skill set, a leadership skills that's required. That hasn't changed. The personal skill set requirement changes either. So you need to become a better communicator. You need to become a better leader. You need to become a more effective presenter, right? Because now it's talking about how you influence others. Okay, so if you are playing on a bigger stage, you're playing with bigger budgets, you're playing with more important decisions, the people who are reviewing your output want that presented concisely, succinctly, effectively. They want to be able to make a decision based on the information you provide them. So there's a whole bunch of skills that are required in a leadership position that transcends departments that aren't necessarily required when you are a leader within a department. So that's a big change, and I don't think that's going to be any different during or post-COVID than it has been for the last 20, 30, 40 years. I think what is going to be different is that some of the changes that we're seeing to the way we're doing business today are going to be temporary, and they're going to be let go the moment business is allowed to go back to business as usual. Others, I think, will be structural in that businesses are going to discover, out of necessity, better ways to do things. They're going to discover where automation can replace what was once a manual and cumbersome procedure, where a distributed workforce can be more productive or effective than a collected workforce. So the work habits, the work processes, the interaction and the collaboration are now going to all be wrapped around technologies that probably were regarded as fringe as little as 2 months ago, and now are regarded as anything but. They're normal, they're our go-to technologies. So I think that ability to sort out what was a solution to a particular problem, the problem being our need to self-isolate, and what actually has introduced an improvement that can be incorporated into the new way of doing business, is going to be another skill. And it's a skill that probably wasn't a requirement 3 months ago.
That's right. I think a lot of those skills you were talking about, they haven't changed in the requirements prior to COVID or prior to any kind of risk or crisis that could come through. I think something that's going to have to change is that technology piece, like you mentioned, but also about how organizations are prepared for risk and crisis management. And I think, you know, a lot of what has happened and what's going to be coming out of the other side, we speak a lot about, you know, what's going to happen when Australia reopens or when business goes back to business as usual. I'm not sure there will be that business as usual mindset moving forward. That's my personal opinion. But I think, you know, we need to really look at how we're preparing our leaders, how we're preparing our teams to look at crisis and risk management on a much more of a key focus of an organisation, rather than just kind of dealing with it after the fact. It's something that I think could be a big thing as well. I mean, a lot of organisations have let people go or stood people down. I think there's going to be a big change management, situation come out the other side of this. I think, maybe organisations are going to be looking at how they, rather than having multiple teams covering across different sectors within the organisation, maybe they will merge, and leaders will need to look at having the skill set to manage a diverse workforce, rather than just that line management type role like you mentioned previously. I think the management structure is going to change, and I think we need to be prepared. And as leaders or organizations who are looking at your leadership capability, it's definitely important to kind of think about the other side of this situation. So no, I
think you're touching on an interesting point, and that's probably around emotional intelligence. Because what this situation that we're in at the moment is demonstrating is that emotionally intelligent people are able to understand that the people they are doing business with are under personal stress, they're under business pressure. The way you manage your interaction with those people needs to be particularly sensitive, it needs to be particularly empathetic. You need to be listening carefully and caring for the person that you are interacting with, and not just the deal that you are trying to do with that person, because right now that's not going to be enough to get you over the line. So I think now and for the foreseeable future, our leaders are going to be people with the emotional intelligence and foresight to understand that the interaction is happening with people with real concern, and maybe that's a change for the better. I was talking to a New Zealand-based crisis management consultant earlier this morning, and we were sort of touching on the notion that the sort of very male dominated business ethos that has kind of dictated the way we interact as business people for the last 30 or 40 or 50 years is perhaps moving towards what is traditionally seen as a more female values-based caring situation right now, and that can only be for the betterment of all people in business. And I tend to agree with that. So, that's why I keep coming back to this point, that some of what we're going through now will be about short-term change, and some of it will be structural change. And I certainly think that the longer we stay in this environment and the more everyone is forced to be emotionally intelligent about the way they deal with people, particularly as a lot of that interaction is no longer face-to-face, but by email, by phone, by Zoom. The non-verbal behaviour that you can pick up on in a face-to-face environment needs to be replaced with a higher level of sensitivity. So, that's something else that I think emerging leaders will have to find their way to deal with. It can't just be about me, about my career progression, about taking the next step up the ladder. It's going to have to be a more emotionally sensitive view of the world.
Agreed. So how do you see managers and organisations being able to support their rising stars and preparing them for a managerial type role in this kind of capacity that we're talking about, not line management, but more executive management?
Well, I think that's around, firstly, the skills. You have to make sure that the people that are being promoted into sort of team leadership, general management type roles have the skill base that allows them to transcend their functional silo. So that means supplementing their specific functional expertise with an understanding of some other functional areas. I think there's some soft skills that need to be partnered with that in terms of emotional intelligence and inclusion and understanding of good communication principles. Then there's a set of new skills around presentation skills and influencing and those kind of things that you need to bring to the table to get things done at a higher level. So it's a blended answer. It's not a simple answer. And I think one of the ways that you achieve that outcome most effectively is to throw people into cross-functional groups where they can learn from one another in an informal sense, right? Because a lot of knowledge is acquired experientially. Book knowledge is great. All learning is great, but knowledge acquired through some form of interaction is more readily absorbed. So I think finding an interactive way to convey and sort of entrench knowledge as an experiential thing is always advantageous.
Definitely. So, Geoff, we've created an emerging leaders program, and this is kind of designed directly to those people who are wanting to transition across, or organisations are looking at cross-promoting or promoting their employees into more of executive management. If we can just talk a little bit about this emerging leaders program,
Sure.
and what kind of skills, because we've created a 90-day program, which is looking at a fast-track, low time investment program. What are some of the skills in this emerging leaders that could kind of adapt to some of these behaviours we're talking about?
Well, I think the sort of skills that you need there, certainly whichever role you are being promoted into, there's going to be a strategy component to it. So, you're going to need some strategy development. You are going to need some sales skills, because whether that is just selling ideas to decision makers, let's say the board, or selling the widget to the customer, ultimately sales is really the art of persuasion. So there's some sales skills that need to be in there. There's clearly communication skills, there's listening skills, there's emotional intelligence skills. So there's a wide range of skills that need to be bundled up, and look, many of these things are skills that our emerging young leaders will have acquired a grounding in on the way through their career progression. But they're skills that need to be, let's say, dusted off or polished up or taken to a higher level um, immediately prior to promotion, because I think really important that we sort of promote people and give them every chance of succeeding at that next level. The notion that you promote someone, let them experience their shortcomings and failings at the next level, and then set about backfilling to fill the gaps is not a very smart way to do it, right? Because what you do want is confident, competent, effective leaders.
Great.
You don't want to promote someone into their level of incompetence and destroy their confidence and undermine their self-belief, and then pluck them out of that role and throw them into an intensive 2-day course to try and backfill the skill after the event.
Right.
Because either one will work, but one's going to give you a good result and one's going to give you a very poor result.
I think as well, if you're kind of looking at that reactive approach, I mean, not only on the individual's confidence level, but also for what kind of impact are they going to have on the people that they're managing and supporting? If they're not prepared to go into this type of role and it's kind of a just give it a go and wing it type of a method, what business impact is that going to bring the staff underneath those people? So I think it's really important to kind of prepare and the great thing that I personally see when we've gone in and kind of created this event, it's not just about the skills you will learn in the program. It's about the networking approach of actually working with peers in a similar position to yourself that you can meet with twice a month and really carry through this program. Peers that may be in similar type of industries or positions to yourself that might be going through certain challenges that you can't discuss with upper management. So I think this program, not only from a learning perspective on the core subjects in the Emerging Leaders program that we've developed to really prepare for those skills we were talking about to transition to more senior positions in management, but it's also about the networking opportunity that this can provide young leaders as well. So I think that's really insightful. Thank you so much for that, Geoff. I really appreciate hearing your search, your understanding as well on, I guess, how businesses and organisations need to kind of prepare management when we come out the other side of this situation as well. So that was really great. We're really excited about our Emerging Leaders program. We're kicking off the program in end of May, isn't it, Geoff? So we've got our first intake running then. There's also a number of grants available. So there's some government have given out some fantastic cost-effective grants that you can actually utilise and help pay and support for the program as well. So my team are definitely here to help and guide you through any application process. We're going to share the link on the website in the comments below where you can find more information about this Emerging Leaders program. And feel free to email us. We've got an email address put down below as well, and our 1300 number, 1300 263 559. If you are interested in participating in this Emerging Leaders program, or even if you're just interested to see what kind of opportunities that you could or training, different training organizations, training structures that we've got at the minute that could help you prepare, whether it be a leadership or even a technical component as well. So thank you so much for joining us today, Geoff. Really appreciate you jumping on and sharing your time with us. And we'll be having our next week's live broadcast, and more information will be shared on social media shortly. Thank you so much.
See you next time.